In hospitality, every moment matters. From the second a guest books their stay until they check out, Honeywell removes the guesswork, empowering you with automation tools that elevate every stay. Predict issues before they occur. Optimize energy without compromising comfort. Keep security invisible yet ever present. Make informed decisions, take smarter actions, and create more memorable experiences with Honeywell.
Thanks for joining us for the ILHA webinar series, a space where thought leaders in luxury hospitality come together to share insights and spark new ideas. My name is Vijay Raghavan, Senior Director of Offering Management for Honeywell Hospitality, sponsors of this webinar in partnership with the International Luxury Hotel Association. We are excited to be talking about the future of travel and the experiential guest. And we are joined today by some of the brightest minds in the luxury hospitality market. First, we've got Jen Barnwell, President, Curator Hotel and Resort Collection. Jen is the President of Curator Hotels and Resort Collection, a group of 83 independent hotels and resorts within the United States. Curator provides its members with a wide breadth of program offerings, including proprietary vendor partnerships and consumer marketing initiatives. Next, we are joined by Marcus Lee, Executive Vice President, Development, HVS. Marcus is the Executive Vice President of Development for HVS, the world's premier hospitality consulting firm. In his role, he provides a wide variety of clients with development, advisory, and asset management services, including helping clients with brand and operator search and selection, market and feasibility studies, development consulting, hotel performance analysis, and third-party asset management. Last but not least, we've got Andres Londono, General Manager, Langdon Hall Country House Hotel and Spa. Andres is the General Manager of Langdon Hall Country House Hotel and Spa, where he has led the full operation for the past 2 years, overseeing all aspects of guest experience, service, and strategic growth. Langdon Hall is a Relasses and Chateau property in Ontario, known for its heritage charm and award-winning culinary experiences. With over 25 years in luxury hospitality, Andres brings a deep passion for experiential travel, operational excellence, and guest-centric innovation. Welcome, everybody. So let's get started with today's discussion on the future of travel and the experiential guest. Let's start with defining what is luxury in hospitality today, especially travelers that are increasingly seeking a differentiated experience that is meaningful, authentic, and more importantly, personalized. Let's start with Jen. Jen, please, can you provide a couple of minutes of what you think about this topic and what does luxury mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I think in terms of luxury, it certainly evokes a whole set of expectations. I would say certainly a high, in some cases, very high price point, high-end furnishings, thoughtful design, a very high level of care. And what I mean by that is very high level of service, certainly enviable locations, a long list of services that are available. There's certainly nothing self-service in this atmosphere. Also a long list of amenities, whether it's, multiple fantastic restaurants, bars, lots of recreational opportunities, very high staff count. So those are kind of like basics, right? But I think what's interesting, at least to me, is luxury certainly doesn't have to be traditional, or stuffy anymore. It can be more modern. It can be sleek, if you will. In the last number of years, it's also in many different locations and geographies. So it can be out in the middle of nowhere. You can be kind of camping. Perhaps you can be urban, you can be rural, desert, mountains, beach. And I think, the list of maybe branded luxury has continued to kind of lengthen, over the years. But even within, the ones we all know, kind of Four Seasons, Ritz, St. Regis, maybe even Waldorf Astoria, you can have much different experiences in one location versus another, which I think is interesting, and that's evolving. And I also, we see the brand crossovers. So, from the world of, high-end restaurants and food with Nobu hotels, we see in fashion design, Armani hotels. And I'd also say, kind of in closing, it's also interesting that it's certainly, I think, much more welcoming to families now than perhaps it was in the past.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I really loved the sentence that you said, which is luxury, does not have to be traditional anymore. So I think that's great. So let me throw the mic over to Marcus. Marcus, do you have some thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, no, of course, and thank you for for having me here today. Um, I agree with Jen, right? That luxury hospitality, as we know it today, is shifting. Um, to kind of what Jen mentioned, it's no longer luxury is no longer synonymous with formality, the tie, and all that, or traditional notions of opulence in your room or in your lobby, right? The industry, as we see it, particularly amongst today's affluent travelers, and HVS, we're all about stats. I want to point out that I looked this up on Wikipedia. There are approximately 6 million high net worth individuals in the U.S. alone. So that's defined as people with investable assets of over $1 million US. That's a very large market, right, of luxury travelers that we now as an industry have to cater to. So we cater to their preferences, their tastes. We kind of need to, hone in on those. To Jen's point, modern luxury is defined, today less by your marble bathrooms or chandeliers in your lobby type thing, but more, I think, how a hotel or a vacation makes the guest feel, right? It's now we're moving into this whole sense of discovery, connecting with your local environment, and with social media, the feeling of being part of, say, like an Instagram story or a YouTube short, right? Rather than just watching it on your phone or being a viewer of it. I think a good example is if you look at Rosewood Hotel Group's recent rebrand, 2 weeks ago. It kind of speaks to how luxury has evolved, right? They're one of the premier companies, and they recently made this switch. Rosewood's moved away from their long-standing, sense of place positioning, right? Which, as a brand, that used to be kind of the calling card. Like, how do you fit into your local environment? So they moved away from sense of place to a new platform that's built entirely around discovery. All right, and what does that mean? It's not just kind of a website refresh. They're kind of reframing how the guests are thinking about luxury, right? It's now something emotional, something that a guest can participate in, right? They want to be a part of it. So like I was mentioning their website, the new digital platform kind of reads more like, if you think about it, like a lifestyle magazine as opposed to a website. You can do a whole bunch of things from there beyond booking rooms. There are products to be sold. There are add-ons to rooms. It's like it's supposed to be a cohesive and a holistic kind of discovery experience right now. I think their message really, and the message to the industry, is kind of, true luxury today is not really about where you stay, right? About what the experience or what your travels bring out in you, how it makes you feel. Is it positive? Is it negative? Etc. So I think that's where the industry is kind of shifting to.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great segue into let's now talk about the experiential traveler, right? Guest expectations are evolving towards purpose-driven, memorable travel, right? It's like everybody wants experience now, and rightfully so, right? How are you appealing to the aspirational luxury traveler? I'm using air quotes here, while staying true to your brand's heritage and values, because it's a whole different world now, right? Let's start with Marcus, and then we'll go to Andres and Jan.
So when we talk about the experiential traveler today, kind of similar, I think we're kind of talking about a mindset, right? And not like a specific not a specific group or a specific demographic anymore, right? It used to be like, oh, what is the market segment and who am I targeting? I think now it's kind of like a mindset of of travelers. You know, whether you're staying at, say, a St. Regis or a Six Senses or even a Sheraton, for example, right? I mean, that's a traveler too. The expectation is that the brand and the hotel understands why you're traveling, and not just kind of, well, where are you staying? Are you at Sheraton Minneapolis? Are you at Sheraton LAX? It's kind of why you're there. And that's kind of where we're shifting to travel to kind of understand the experiential traveler. So what we're seeing across brands, and particularly I would say the larger luxury brands, it's kind of a deliberate pivot away from service excellence. You know, 20 years ago, you know, when Ritz-Carlton came about, Four Seasons came about, that's like service excellence. Now we're moving towards how to creatively engage the guests, right? How does that vacation you just took make you feel overall, rather than, you know, asking a friend, hey, VJ, you just came back from, you know, X location. What did you do? It's more about, you know, how did you feel? And I think the industry, you know, leading brands today make guests feel good about their vacation, right? It creates lasting memories. And ultimately, these lasting memories is something that the guests would then crave. And what does that do? You know, you crave that experience. You kind of want to do it again. It's like a drug that makes them go on more vacations and try out other destinations,
Right.
hopefully within the same brand family. You know, Four Seasons does this beautiful thing I kind of alluded to, you know, through service culture, and their golden rule is, you know, treat others as you would like to be treated. So this guiding principle kind of has always empowered their staff in the past, and I think it's allowed them today to continue to empower the staff to kind of create these unique kind of unscripted moments for their guests, so that the guests feel emotionally seen. You know, they're not just Marcus Lee stayed 50 times at a Four Seasons over the last year. They want to feel something a little bit more special than that. So you know, that's kind of how they're moving. And you know, other brands, like, for example, wellness brands like Six Senses, for example, what their feel is that they're not trying to sell you a stay, but rather they're trying to sell you
Experience.
wellness and experience. Yeah, like, so how do you feel when you leave a Six Senses? Are you refreshed? Are you zen, etc., right? So yeah, I think the top luxury brands today kind of know what their guests want, and they know that, you know, it's authentic experiences that they're craving.
I love the comment that you made, like, you know, creatively engaging the guest, right? That's really cool, because now when the creativity lies in each brand, each hotel, you know, it could be different experiences. The creativity could be different, right? And I think that would actually could potentially even be a competitive advantage, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of dovetails very well with Andres and what they're doing at Landon Hall. Andres, do you have a point of view on how you look at experiential traveler?
Absolutely, and thank you for the question and being here. I 100% agree with Marcus and Jen, but I also think that, and you know, maybe going a little bit back to luxury. Luxury is a lot right now in the eye of the beholder. So there's even different levels of luxury, and they're being created by not just these amazing brands, but by people and how they share those experiences. The experiential traveler, you know, Marcus was saying, you know, you're not selling them a room, you're not selling them, you're actually selling them an experience, but you, more than that, you are kind of the stage for that experience where the guest is the main character and the main actor, right? And so how do you create an experience where the guest feels that they are the main character, that they can share, that they can go and live something that is hasn't been done before by them, right? And so that's when the creativity, like Marco was saying, is so important, because you almost make each of the products and services that you have unique and personalized, not just to every guest, but to what they want to experience that time that they're there, right? Langdon Hall, we're a small property in Ontario, and so when guests come here, those experiences that we're trying to create even change depending on what time of the year they come. Even if they come the same time twice in a summer, the experience has to be different, right? And so it's really the guest at the center of luxury and experiential travel, where they can tell those rich stories. And, you know, you talk about like Instagrammable moments.
Yeah,
Luxury is, based on your audience and your social media or whatever, that is your luxury, right? And so everybody is defining it differently, and everybody is defining that experiential travel differently. And if we were saying, if there's no picture, it didn't exist, it didn't happen, right? So how does the guest become part of that center moment of that experience? We have we're doing a transformation right now in all our digital platforms, putting the guest at the center of that experience, not the guest room, not the hotel, not the pool. It's the guest enjoying those experiences so that people can see themselves going through that experience.
Yeah, yeah, no, that you make a great point, and that also sort of the creativity comes in where with the guest's experience with with the property, because many people not only come there for, hey, I'm coming to a new place, but there is this new concept of staycation, right? They come in, they want to be at the hotel, enjoy all the amenities, enjoy the building itself. In your case, you've got an amazing, property that's very rich in heritage and things like that, right? So how does that experience with the building itself, right? In case of Honeywell, there are lots of smart building solutions that we offer, right, in terms of energy efficiency and all those kinds of things. How does that work really well with the architectural charm is really really cool to think about. And speaking of differentiated experience, Jen, you got a quick plug on what you think about the experiential traveler in your perspective.
Yeah, I think just really quickly, I love what Andreas and Marcus have been saying. Um, in my mind, kind of, this concept of how do you appeal and stay true to yourself. Um, it's integral. Like it's not one or the other. I think we're dealing with really savvy, discerning travelers, and you really have to tell your story. You have to differentiate yourself based on what you are, and what your offerings are, what makes you special or unique or creative or memorable, and really lean into it. Nothing should be gimmicky or kind of made up or, something that's really a stretch. Just really identify and lean into what makes you special, as a property and your special team members, what's specific to your location and foster all those like local relationships and local experiences and put it out there front and center. And it'll resonate. I think it'll resonate with the guests that you want to get.
I agree, totally
Yeah.
agree.
I'll
And,
just add one more thing, if I may, on something that you just said,
sure.
being true to yourself and connecting with the guest. And then you turn it to the team and the staff.
Mm-hmm.
And that is another storytelling that has to intertwine with the guest. Gone are the days of, here you go, front desk agent, this is how you answer the phone. That's gone. We use a word here, whimsical. Put your own charm into it. So you have to completely appeal a team member telling that story alongside with the guest, like Jen is saying.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense, because you have to think about it differently, because differentiated experiences is what people are looking for, guests are looking for these days. Now that brings it to this term that I often think about. It's called high touch meets high tech, right? As cliche as it might sound, how does hotels strike the right balance of using technology to deliver a seamless experience while still preserving the warmth, empathy, and emotional connection that define a true luxury experience? Because that's what guests are looking for, right? Jen, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, hopefully most of us in this industry, at least in this subsegment, people are always, in my opinion, going to be integral to providing the experience, the hospitality. And tech comes in as a solution to try to help them do that. So I always kind of go back to the basics, when you're thinking about different technologies, um, you can kind of go through a checklist. It's pretty like, simple or direct. Is the tech actually going to enhance the guest experience? Um, Is it going to work? Is it going to be visible to the guest or invisible to the guest? Is it gonna make things better, right? You want to be solving a problem. You don't want to, get distracted by all these kind of innovations and solving a problem that actually doesn't exist for you. And you don't want to just keep adding on things either. And, going off what Andreas just ended with too, it's like your team is the most important part of this whole operation. I mean, do they want this? Are they
Right.
going to adopt this? Are they going to be on board with this? Again, does it really help them? So that's what we always try to, think of first and foremost. Um, and I also view, I mean, there's so much great technology out there and so much development kind of in every platform that we've been using for years. But are we even using, all of its capabilities? So I think a lot about um, we should be using the technology to get things right. So everything from we should have at this point very in-depth guest profiles of every guest that's on their way to us and everyone who's in-house with us and everyone who's stayed with us in the past, because that's going to drive personalization. The technology should certainly help with the basics, ease of check-in, check-out, guest requests, and certainly comfort. I mean, in these days, there's an expectation of effortless comfort in all aspects, with just the heating and cooling, all these control systems, the lights, if you have a mobile app that it's, really rich. And then if you do all those things and it's all effective and your team is bought into it and it really works, then you can layer in human touches, or probably should say even more, right? So whatever they may be, depending on your operation and your branding, handwritten notes, actual phone calls, interacting with your guests more than you otherwise would be able to, sending them in-room amenities, that they'll actually like rather than, a fruit and cheese plate in the room that's been sitting there for 5 hours, which happens to me a lot. So that's kind of the way I think about, high tech, high touch.
Yeah, no, great point, right? I think I totally agree with you. High tech should actually empower staff, right? It's not about eliminating them. And to your point of that, that 5 hour old cheese plate, I still see when we go to hotels, right? They guests order room service, and then the tray just gets left out on the corridor, and the food they don't finish it, so it keeps smelling, and it's I see what you're saying there. So Marcus, what are your thoughts on this, right? Because I know you work with a lot of luxury hotel owners and prop groups, and so would love to get your thoughts on this.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's an important starting point. I think for our industry beyond kind of the guest experience, you're right. So like HVS, we work with a lot of owners, right? As a third party asset manager, we advise a lot of owners throughout the industry, and I think we need to kind of look at why, as an industry, we're embracing tech and why it's important to use high tech to begin with. And that's really, labor costs are going up across the industry and, globally across other industries as well. So HVS, I can pull this stat out. We did some research on kind of labor expenses, and I have this data through year-to-date July 2025. Labor costs as a percentage of total revenue. So basically, for the first 7 months of the year, was up about 0.5%. Okay, so that is of total revenue. So total revenue increases, we assume, every year over year, because ADRs go up and RevPARs go up. But with labor costs increasing above and beyond that margin by 0.5%. So I think that's kind of an important thought to understand, or just kind of background as to why owners and operators are driving this change towards technology. But Jen, you're absolutely right. I think that, the goal isn't for technology to be replacing hospitality or the human element. I think it's more about layering this technology, right? And how can you make use of technology and orchestrate technology so that the human connection and the guest connection between staff and humans are kind of enhanced, or even remains relevant. So you see a lot of the things that what you mentioned, that you should know where the guests are at this point and the profiles and all that. instead of, I would say when I worked in a hotel 20 years ago, that's something we Google or track and keep on the spreadsheet. CRMs today, customer relationship management softwares today, should be able to sync that up for you so that you know that, okay, Mr. Raghavan, you've just returned. I know it's your 5th stay, it's your anniversary, and we know you have preferences for a feather-free room, for example, and that should already be delivered or in your room. And that's, I think, something that, speaking of tech and rooms and all that, I think that owners really kind of look at firms like Honeywell, right, at how can you make tech smart in the guest rooms,
Yeah.
right? Technology should be a kind of an enabler in the guest rooms. I know a lot of your systems, for example, that you offer guests is climate control, lighting control, almost predictive maintenance of a room, really, so that it's set for the guests, how the guest wants it, and it takes away that laborious or labor hours, to put it that way, right? Not
Yeah.
someone is walking through a 200 room hotel and making sure the thermostat's at 71 in every single room, right?
Yeah.
That's man hours. But yeah, I think that with systems that Incom that you guys have at Honeywell, right, the guest room management system, it kind of, I know you integrate kind of occupancy with like human detection almost, and then it kind of controls lighting, temperature, draperies even, right? I love it when I wake up in the morning and you don't have to get out of bed and the natural sunlight comes in.
That's right.
So yeah, I think that's kind of where we kind of make use of tech. And I think you guys do very well, to my understanding, that your guest room management system is not just for new builds, right? I looked it up. It kind of, you can help some of these heritage hotels, which I think is something important to understand, right? You talk about these luxury hotels. There are a lot of these legacy type properties. You think of Rosewood, they have the Carlisle. The building's 100 years old, right? But Honeywell is able to kind of integrate tech into that, or say the Mandarin Oriental in Hyde Park in London. Those buildings are old, but you're able to kind of readapt and improve and upgrade the tech in these buildings that allow for labor cost savings, and at the same time kind of anticipating the luxury travelers' needs today.
Absolutely. And you hit it in the nail, right? It's because to me, luxury guests don't care about what's happening in the background. They expect effortless comfort, right? So it's almost like the stat that you threw out there for labor shortage is real. I mean, it's you can see that this industry, if I have to say so, did not recover the post-COVID labor shortage issues, right? That's still out there. So how can we help? Like, for example, is there a way our systems, such as providing intuitive lighting controls, or even our, like you mentioned, the thermostats and things like that, how can we make their stay comfortable? I think that's kind of where the rubber meets the road for me, and I'm sure as a guest, that's probably very important too. So let's just shift the topic a little bit to some of the some latest technology in artificial intelligence. Right now, hype or real, that's a different question, but it is whether you like it or not, it's there, right? So what in speaking of evolution of the guest experience, and personalization is a big part, as we talked about in the luxury space, where every small detail matters, right? How are you thinking about using AI to elevate personalization? Because there's this term called hyper personalization that's being thrown out there. And so how can this technology really help? I mean, when you say AI, people are still kind of trying to figure out what it is, where does it fit. So we're thinking, is it like a behind the scenes enabler, or do you think it is now ready to play a more sort of visible role in shaping how guests experience your brand? Let's start with Andres, and then we'll move down.
You definitely need to have had conversations about how you're going to start integrating AI, because if you haven't, I mean, your guests are probably, some are asking and some don't want to hear about it. Some brands and some operations in some different industries, it's a luxury to talk to a person. It's so technological. You have to go through the chat and then answer some questions and things like that. And so get to a person is sometimes it actually costs you. So it's a luxurious event. And, Marcus was talking about labor. And it really depends on the problems that you're trying to fix for your industry or your business. To me, and we talked a little bit about technology just before, it's really about how it makes the guest feel. You can have all the technology in the world, but it's like your house. And if you have kids, turn on the Wi-Fi, see what happens. Everybody goes like your kids, all of a sudden, all of them come at once. If the technology that you have in your guest rooms or in your hotel doesn't make the guest feel, and Jen touched about it, it needs to be invisible because a lot of people don't want it, but they expect certain things, but they want to make sure that it works. With AI, to me, I think it's the same thing. I don't know, and maybe I'm short-minded or narrow-minded. I don't see a world in luxury hospitality taken over by AI because I don't know that. And AI is doing amazing things, but the personal touch, the personalization, the human connection, I don't think you can take it out of it. Because feelings, until they put feelings in AI, I think this is really how you make people feel. It's a people business. It's a team member or staff member. You're dealing with people, and if you can't, I don't think you can teach AI that. Definitely AI as a tool for teams, as a way of understanding guest history and tracking preferences. And, yeah, we've had legacy systems like Opera where you can keep all of these notes, but today's systems, like Marcus was saying, CRMs, it's just a wealth of information at your fingertips and quick. You don't have, oh, give me a second and go open the Rolodex and see how many times you've stayed here. Ms. Barnwell, welcome. Great to have you. It's your 20th stay with us.
Yeah.
Oh, right. That's right. Right. So it has to be, it needs to be quick. Definitely, in terms of like communication with our guests and, call it even marketing sometimes, AI and technology can really help us drive a very unique message. Go back to that story, the guest at the center of the experience. So using AI to making sure that that personalization is there is super important. And for businesses, to me, interpreting data, being able to review data. I came to this property and a lot of great minds, a lot of tremendous experiences, and a lot of, my gut's telling me we should do this. That's a great, and for the most part, everybody was right all the time. But then when we started compounding it with data and statistics, and like Jen said, knowing your guest, like if you don't know your guest and you don't know who you are, you've lost completely where you're going. So to me, AI, a complete resource, but you have to make sure that how it's impacting the guest and how the guest is feeling and how your team is feeling is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. Jen, I think, talking to you before this call, you had some thoughts around this, but real quick, I just wanted to kind of throw the mic over to you and see what your thoughts were around leveraging AI and what it can do and how is it ready?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would start by saying it can be exhausting to figure it all out. So there's so much out. I mean, combine, all the emails I get from supposed, AI capable, innovative, new offerings and everything. And the conferences I go to, it's either the whole day's about AI or at least every panel's, there's a panel that's about AI.
There's no sentence without AI now.
Yeah. So, not that that's a huge negative, but it's just a lot of noise to dig through, and not everybody has the time and resources to do that. We have a fair amount of time and resources at Curator, thankfully, so we do kind of dig down deep in some of these things, but we do kind of at the end of the day have more of what I would call like a pragmatic approach, or, only really focus on when we get down to what are the best use cases. So for us, it's kind of still a short list of things. I mean, certainly, depending on how big your operation is, I mean, it could be like at an enterprise corporate level or even at a very large property level. It can certainly help you through the hiring process in certain aspects of it. You're not going to have an AI agent do your interviews, but It can also very much help. We've deployed quite a few of these robot vacuums. So, for big event spaces, when they're vacant, for, corridors late at night, and the lobby in public spaces overnight, they are really phenomenal, and do a great job. And it's only going to, do better for your property and help your cleanliness scores and all those great things that you want, at least from our experience. We've also been working with a platform that helps you respond to RFPs. So, requests for events of all different types. We all know if you're one of the first to respond, you're much more likely to close that business. So, that combined with, I'll say this comment, that's combined with the AI voice agents. We really vetted a whole lot of them. And the key was, we think we found, one, maybe up to three, because there's so many out there, that they don't necessarily sound like a robot. And they're so well trained that it's just about taking the heavy load off the front desk for those very, very simple questions
Yeah.
that an AI agent can handle. And we listen to the recordings and we make sure people are satisfied with the response. And if it's something complicated, they're going to talk to a person. But if you're at the front desk, at a hotel that runs 75 or 80% occupancy, there's always people checking in or checking out or asking questions, and your phone's ringing nonstop. We're just trying to make sure our team members have a better experience while they're checked in and on the job. So part of it is that there's not going to be this wholesale reduction in force. It's just to be more efficient, to help our team members do as much as they can, again, from the hands-on human hospitality point of view for our guests.
Right. I totally agree with you. I mean, that, people come to luxury properties to have that hands-on or face-to-face support and face-to-face conversation, things like that. But yeah, so every day AI is changing, and there are new things coming up. I'm pretty sure the world is not going to be the same 2 years from now with the kind of evolution that AI is going through. But let's just quickly sort of go into another hot topic for the world, which is sustainability, right? Today's luxury guests really increasingly they care about purpose, right, as much as they care about polish. How are you using technology and sustainable design to create experiences that feel indulgent but also responsible, to the world, and also resonates with the eco-conscious traveler? How are you? I mean, how are you addressing this? Just a quick couple of minutes, Marcus. Let's start with you.
Sure. I think a lot of travelers like to think that they, are traveling sustainably, right? That word is kind of it's in vogue. It's within social sets, or even within friend groups. One wants to think that that's what they're doing, but ultimately, I think the luxury traveler, for example, they want to be pampered, right? They want to know that their sheets and their duvets are a certain thread count, in the room, and but they also want to feel good about the choices that they're making as they travel, and they want to make these choices in a very uh, unobtrusive way. They don't want to have to think about it. It should be thought about for them by the operator or the brand, in a way that when they show up, they're like, okay, well, I was traveling responsibly. And I think one kind of good brand that's out there, or one operator that's kind of really leaned into this, and more and more are doing that, but the one that does very well, it comes to mind, is like the One Hotel Group, right? They very much sell or brand themselves on this sustainability element of themselves, right? I mean, back to guest room systems, right? Their hotels kind of feature these occupancy driven thermostat controls that Honeywell, you guys provide, like HVAC energy recovery systems. They provide filtered water in the guest rooms and guest carafes, as opposed to everybody with the bottled waters these days. And things like their the one less thing program, for example, right, where a guest can leave their used clothes really for donation rather than throwing them away, right? Maybe you've overpacked in the city. You're in New York. You've gone shopping and everything, and you're like, well, my suitcase doesn't fit right now. Well, they give you the option there of saying, I can donate some of these clothes I don't want anymore. Just bought a whole new wardrobe. So that's kind of an example of how they do it. It's thoughtful for the guests, but it's also an unobtrusive attempt at bringing, sustainability to the luxury guests.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And Jen, do you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't mean to be repetitive, but I certainly agree with what Marcus said. We actually happen to have one SF in our collection, and I've stayed there many times. And I was thinking the most about water consciousness from, all the water fixtures you have in properties. They're so innovative now. They're very efficient, but also are very well performing and guest satisfying. And even in a retrofit situation, I mean, we've seen properties go back and put in devices that help with water leaks and maybe running toilets. And it's a huge conservation effort because you're using so much less water. I mean, and it's also an ROI situation for the owner, but it's water conservation. I absolutely love when I stay at a hotel and they have the water stations on the floors. The one in Seattle, which is kind of brand new, they actually have a water dispenser right in the bathroom.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, oh my God, I love this so much because I am at this point where I feel pretty bad about using a plastic water bottle. And my, friends and family think I'm crazy, but if I'm stuck with a plastic water bottle, I'll use it like 20 more times before I recycle it.
Wow.
So water consciousness, also the materials consciousness too, which of course the one brand is good at, but there's some really great consultants in the space now that can help you through the whole capital planning process to make thoughtful choices if that's part of your value system with vendors that have sustainable values and manufacturers, the way they make things, reuse, recycle, etc. And there's also some solutions in the food and beverage space where we haven't tried them out, but we've been trying to get educated about. It's actually AI enabled to help you figure out where most of your food waste is coming
Yeah,
from, and
heard
can
about
you
that.
make different decisions in your food prep and your menus to meaningfully reduce that food waste.
Yeah, I think I've actually heard about this because this is getting more and more sort of traction, right? And we at Honeywell, we are also kind of seeing how we can help in terms of our Onity door locks, right? They have electronic door locks, and we have a product called Direct Key, which basically eliminates the need for those plastic keys, right? So we don't need the plastic
Mm.
keys anymore, and the keys are on your phone, so every time you go you reuse it and do that. And then the same thing with our thermostats, right? We have got these energy management systems which kind of plays around with the setbacks because it saves
Yeah.
money. And what I also like is more and more hotels these days are saying, hey guest, would you want to have housekeeping today? Do you want to skip it? That sort of helps as well. So those kinds of the programs that are out there. But let's get a little bit into challenges, right? So we have all these smart buildings, we've got lots of techs, right? Technology within the hotel. My pet peeve is about integrations, but integrating new technologies into existing hotel ecosystems, right? It's I'm sure it's a very complex affair, especially when multiple systems, multiple vendors, they're all involved. What are some of the big challenges that you face when connecting modern solutions, such as IoT and third-party apps, with some of these legacy platforms in the property management system or point of sale systems? And how do you ensure a smooth unified experience, right? My background is I used to work for IHG, so one of the things that I sort of was a pet peeve of mine was these different fragmentations, right? It's very fragmented data that lies everywhere on property. But if you look at how does this data really help? It doesn't, right? Because it's like it's there in every pocket. We know the data is there, but then the proverbial the left hand doesn't speak to the right hand. And then so that results in sort of inconsistent user experiences and operational inefficiencies, right? You're looking at it going, oh my God, I've got the data, but I can't use it because it's not talking to each other. And then the other thing is, dovetailing off of that, I've got like 15 different vendors that are all doing the same thing, but vendors don't speak the same language. I mean, what I meant by that is the same tech language, right? So it's really cool. So that's been one of my pet peeve, and here at Honeywell, that's one of the things that I'm really working hard, and I hopefully it'll come out is we need to work on some out of the box integrations, right? That's something that I'm really pushing hard. How do we bring together these disparate systems that don't naturally talk to each other? How do we force it? And how do you really sort of make sense of that data, and technology with the help of one vendor, right? Give me a one throat to choke. I don't want 15 different vendors to work with. Maybe too aggressive if I say one throat to choke. Let's call it one neck to hug. And sort of how do we do it? So just kind of taking that as the background and what industry is doing. Andres, do you have any sort of any point of view on these technological challenges that are at your property, and how are you addressing it? I mean, do you also face like 15 different vendors, and the left hand doesn't speak to the right hand? What's your take?
Like I almost giggled inside when Jen said it's exhausting, because it is absolutely exhausting. And I remember going last year to the Inspire conference, and I asked exactly that question. And there's brands, big corporate offices, like Jen said, that you have the resources to scan through it. So some of us don't. So which one is the good AI? Which one is the good technology? Which one does actually, because everybody says they integrate, but in the end of the day, almost nobody integrates. We just went through a complete IT infrastructure change. And the biggest challenge was exactly that, to find, and we wanted to go to a couple of legacy systems because of the trust of how they work. And we wanted to make sure, again, stop worrying about technology, get back to the guest experience. The technology needs to be there for the team so that it works, so they can focus on the guest.
Yeah.
And then integrating systems, integrating a PMS with a POS, and integrating with the spa systems, and integrating it with reservation systems and gift card systems. Some of them are not offered all over the world. Some of the influx you get is, who are you and from where? And you say you can do this. It is exhausting. Methodically, just you really have to do your homework.
Yeah.
We, as a rule of thumb, three alternatives at minimum, and really exhausting. Okay, show me exactly what that looked like. Show me
Yeah.
exactly the journey that the team member is going to follow. Show me exactly the journey that the guest is going to follow. In terms of things that impact that. There's also a, technology that I cannot tell. The biggest amount that I get is everybody doing revenue management for you. Everybody will do revenue management for you. They sometimes don't even know where you are. So I think that it comes down to which one works. Well, you got to do your homework. There's a lot of, find the best subject matter expert that you can.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah.
someone within your team, like Jen was saying, or whether, we've built relationships for years and years. If you don't know if you don't have the answer, you need to know the person that has the answer. Go, like Jen was saying, go to conferences. Today we finished, we're one more piece waiting for it. And I have to say that apart from one, everything was successful. We achieved everything, but we did after the second piece of software we wanted to install. I really went back and said, you know what? These are the goals. This is what we want to achieve. And every step of the way through implementation, through, all the calls, because one thing is the salesperson, The next thing is the one that is implementing it. And then after that is, the support. So every step of the way, going back to those values and that goals and that objective that you had when you started implementing anything, it really helps that team, go back to, okay, yes, we did promise that, and this is how we promised it, and this is how we will deliver it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So it's a very tricky balance, and where do you go looking for the information if you don't have that information? I think it's super important. So Jen, I just wanted to get your thoughts on what do you think about this approach of one throat to choke or one neck to hug when it comes to vendors and these myriad of vendors that all, like Andres said, everybody and their mother can do revenue management, but what are your thoughts on this working with this one vendor who can actually take care of all of the at least most of the technology within your hotels?
Yeah, Vijay, thank you and Andres did a great job pointing out everything. It can go back to a very, again, basic question. There are groups out there that can do it all, like an all-in-one solution. They have a PMS, they have an RMS. They say they have a, back office system, and they say you can do the door locks through them and credit card processing and everything. So I think if I was generalizing, maybe, they're getting better and better, but from our perspective, we're still, you could say, fragmented in that we think there's a couple best in class PMSs, and there's, a couple maybe best in class revenue management systems. And so you're still making different choices throughout the whole tech stack, meaning with different vendors. So it goes back to what you guys already said, integrations, the siloing of data. I would just say a couple takeaways, and I think Andreas touched on this too. It's really important to, identify a champion, in your team, because it's one thing to do all this incredibly careful planning, go through the onboarding, but once it's in place, you want to make sure you're getting out of it what you were supposed to and keep holding that vendor accountable, but you need someone to do it. So, I absolutely love your occupancy-based thermostats, but if our chief engineer isn't paying attention and looking at that data and making sure the set points are right and everything isn't getting messed with, then, your ROI and cost savings and energy savings aren't going to be there. Similarly, I would just push back really hard on the vendors and hold them accountable and say, we love the system. It's got to integrate. You tell me there's so much data, but what do I do with it? Can you build, some kind of system for me so I can pull that data out and make it usable in an easy way for my team? So I just would add those things quickly.
Yeah, I think that's, you make a great point, right? It's like how do you get those data to kind of make sense for you? Because one of the things that we have been looking at is a product called Honeywell Forge, which is basically providing some kind of a single pane of glass view, looking at these different building data, and then say, hey, the thermostat in room 405, or the HVAC system in room 350, or whatever it may be, you need to go take action on this, and it kind of shows up. That's a very, very good point. As we come sort of to the conclusion of this session, I wanted to quickly touch upon the road ahead for us, right? So looking towards the next decade, what innovations or shifts, right? It could be cultural, it could be technological, it could be experiential, do you believe will most shape the future of luxury travel? And just quick, rapid fire. Andres, let's start with you. 60 seconds each. Let us know what you think that is coming ahead.
It's going to evolve so fast. If you look at, the generations that are coming up and the way that they like to travel, I think we were talking about, AI and, plan this for me. The research they do, the places they want to go, how they want those places to impact them, that's going to be exponential. It really, feelings and then what I can show about it is going to take a super high, a very fast highway in travel.
How do we listen to their emotions? Great. Marcus?
For me, I think if you look ahead at the next 3 to 5 years, The biggest shift would be, luxury hospitality used to be a service, or what, it still is a service, but I think it's shifting towards more hospitality as an ecosystem, right? We're going to move away from that, the strong FF&E, the luxurious fixtures in your bathroom or lobby type thing, to one that more combines experiences, unique experiences, right? You're eating and sharing a meal in a family-run kitchen type situation, as opposed to going to a Michelin star restaurant, or rather than sitting poolside, could you be playing tennis with Venus Williams at the Four Seasons in Palm Beach, for example? So I think the brands and the independent hotels, right? I mean, Langdon Hall and Curator, you have a lot of independent hotels and lots that do very well at it. I think that the players, these luxury independent hotels or brands that kind of recognize these trends and customer and consumer preferences as best as possible as they come up, will eventually come up on top. Right. And I kind of alluded to this with the independent brands. I think it's a great equalizer, really, in some way, for Andreas, you at Langdon Hall, and Jen at Curator, where, it could be we see more and more independent hotels come up because, is there really a box to check anymore to, say, stay in a Westin or a Hilton, right? It's an exciting time, though, and I'm excited to kind of see what the next big chapter and big frontier would be for our industry.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. In the world where we are talking about software as a service and now comfort as a service, I think the way you're talking about, we're all talking about, what I've heard from you guys is now we probably need to move more towards experience as a service. God, did we just make up a new business model here? But I think that's where we are going, experience as a service. Jen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm very like-minded with Andreas. The way people are searching for travel is shifting already, and it's only going to accelerate. They're devouring content on the social channels, whether it's kind of, mostly Instagram and TikTok today, I think, and that's where they're getting their travel inspiration and finding things. So everyone really needs to think about how these travelers are going to find you. And it's actually a process you've got to go through, and we're educating ourselves on that now. From the back end of your website and how it's structured. You got to really think about that and start moving on it today, so that these AI agents and large language models and everything where people are doing their searching, you got to show up. Like, we don't want to sit back and just let the OTAs take everything, like they kind of have been to date. So I would just encourage everyone to get on top of that and understand how you're going to be visible in this age where people are using AI to find their travel.
That's a fantastic point that you make, because with AI now, people are creating itineraries. People are like asking, "Hey, ChatGPT, where should I go and stay?" It's becoming that kind of a world. But you make a fantastic point. I think we all need to pay attention in terms of how are we going to be in front of these travelers who are looking for experiential travel, right? Well, I think we are at the end of our session here, but thank you all for such an inspiring and forward-thinking discussion. We have explored what the future of travel and experiential luxury truly means, from balancing high touch with high tech to using AI in luxury hospitality and reimagining sustainability through smart building technologies, right? So a very heartfelt thank you to our incredible panelists for sharing your insights and experiences, and to ILHA for providing this platform to bring such global leaders such as Jen, Andres, and Marcus in hospitality together. And of course, a super special thanks to Honeywell for sponsoring today's event and for continuing to drive innovation that empowers hotels to deliver smart, sustainable, and more personalized guest experience.
Meet the hotel industry's biggest leaders at Inspire Luxury Hospitality Conference. Back for its 16th year, Inspire 2025 is held in November in Prague and December in Las Vegas. It's the premier event for luxury hospitality. Land deals, learn strategy, and explore innovation. Visit us at inspire.ilha.org.